Okay, so today I'm going to demonstrate a blunt cut bob sewing on my model Shamika. And I just wanted to show some before shots of her natural hair before. Here's a straight on shot as well. And I wanted to show the empty floor because I know that State Board looks at that when you cut your hair, or at least I've heard. So we started out. I just want to show some clips of the braiding pattern that we use for this install. It's a pretty standard braiding pattern that I actually use for most of my sew-ins. You just watch these clips. And you see we're just parting the sections and doing some really small but not really tight cornrows. For her, she's 100% natural. You just want to keep braiding that hair, making sure every time you part that hair that you can see through to the next braid between that hair. If you cannot see through to the next braid, then that section may be too thick and you will likely experience lumps in your style. Taking your time to connect those braids, but also make sure there's no bulk. And here's the finished pattern. As you can see, flat, no lumps, no bumps. One thing I did want to mention about this sew-in before we start is it is something that I like to consider a top-heavy installation, which means that we basically didn't put any hair in the bag. We're treating this style as if she has an undercut because the bob that we're doing is going to be so short. And you don't want to leave a lot of bulk in the back because it'll be hard to style and it's artificial hair, so you just want to make it work for you. And so we're just spraying down the hair, getting it wet so that we can perform a proper haircut. We're doing a 0-degree, one length bob cut. His hair started out at 18 inches. And I'm using the 3-section method, if that is such a thing. I'm sectioning off her hair into 3 sections to make it easier to cut. There's 2 at the top and 1 in the back. I like to use 3 when I'm cutting a bob because it helps me keep everything centered, especially for this even one-length bob. You don't want any lines, you don't want any of your holes to show in the haircut. So by doing this sectioning, it allows me to start from the center and move from left to right, keeping everything balanced. And as you can see, I'm just taking small sections and using a stationery guide that I created to cut that hair right below her nape area, making sure not to cut past the second knuckle, and making sure I'm also standing directly in front of the section that I want to cut. I'm taking my time with this because I want a nice clean line. When I blow her hair out, I want it to be sharp. I want it to look like we did this on purpose. As you can see, I kind of flip the hair out every now and then. That's just my way of cross-checking my cut to make sure all the hairs are actually even. If the flip is leaning to one side or the other, then I know it may be too long or too short either way. And now I've moved on to my second section. This is the sides, and I'm just connecting the sides to that back area, making sure to use the right amount of tension over those ears to avoid any holes. Still moving through that section, also talking to my client a lot. That's the final part of that right side. Now we're going to move on to the left, and we're going to follow those same steps like we did in each section, starting at the very bottom row. I'm using the wefts as guides for my rows because it's easier to maintain control of how the hair falls. Spraying that hair down again to make sure it's completely saturated. I'm using the fine teeth of my comb to detangle that section and make sure everything is smooth before we cut. This will help ensure that our cut is super blunt, super sharp. Cutting tiny bits at a time so that I don't overwhelm myself. Making sure to follow that guideline below my fingers. It's easier to see. Now, because I'm standing in a tight corner, you will see me do a bend of sorts to, see my cut properly, but I'm not just bending over. You almost want to kind of bow to the hair by placing one foot in front of the other and then bending over. That will help ensure that your back is balanced and straight and your cut is accurate. Now I'm just power drying the hair real quick before we go through with the paddle brush so we can see the final results of our cut. You just want to blow it until you see that first level of frizz, and after that you go in with your paddle brush or your round brush, your tool of choice, and smooth that hair out. Going again into my 3 sections, now with dry hair. Turning my flat iron up to 450. And you'll see in the beginning, I started out putting a curve in the hair because I was going to style the hair at first. But because I'm doing a blunt cut, I was thinking in the middle of my style and I changed my mind and I switched to straightening the hair out all the way so that I could completely cross-check my cut and then proceed with styling. And I already see that nice line forming. And that's the first section. You see that bump in there? Where the light hits, that's where the curve in the hair is. And once I got to the front, you see it's a little bit more straight. I do go in and actually smooth the back out before I cut, but I just wanted to explain that in case we saw it and wonder what was going on. Still just smoothing that hair out row by row, chasing my flat iron with my comb so that that hair comes out super sleek with no frayed ends. Moving on to our third and last section. This left section is where her fringe area is located. But because of the type of style I did, we won't be letting the hair fall to the front. And now you'll see me just checking my cut, getting those little pieces, cleaning it up, getting it extra sharp. Now I'm taking my favorite hairspray, Sebastian Shapers, and just adding a little bit of that to the hair so that it can be soft but still stay in place. Just working that curve into there without making it too hard. You want to go for a nice C shape with this particular style. I'm just moving around the head, creating that nice soft curve so that we can still see our sharp edge. And now that our style is done, I'm just going through, blending in her natural hair, taking my baby iron, smoothing out those edges on both sides. Then I'm going to go in with my large H2 Pro iron and smooth out her leave out portion. Only using one pass because we're going to go over it again once we apply product. But you just want to get the hair straight so you can set it in place. This method helps me just define a nice sharp clean part while also blending the hair. Okay, now using the Brilliance anti-humectant product from Aveda just to blend her natural hair in, because it did look a little dry into those extensions, but you see me separating it to make sure that the product doesn't weigh the extension hair down. Only covers up the line of demarcation between her natural hair and the bob sewn. Now you see me doing that second pass, a little steam from that product. Now I'm adding the anti-humectant to her edges before I slick them down, just to fight them from curling up so quickly. Then we're going to take my favorite product, the Goddess Essentials Flex Paste, and slick her edges down. I'm going to use that to give her hair a nice matte finish. We don't want it to be too shiny, considering we want this style to look very natural.